What is going on, my good people? Welcome back to the show. This is Unnecessary Rambling. I appreciate you for tuning in. Appreciate you for stopping by to talk a little video game news here today. I know it's been a little bit since I've hit y'all with a news update. I'm trying to keep up, trying to stay afloat with all of the news that's constantly hitting us, but I got quite a few stories, so it's going to be a long episode. I think we got like 10 stories, something like that here today to talk about. So gonna be a long one. Go ahead, strap in, and let's talk some video game news. If you're new here, consider subscribing. So we just had a Nintendo Direct last week, and there were two really big pieces of news, two big kind of release dates that dropped in our lap during that Nintendo Direct, and one is for Metroid Prime 4. Which is releasing on December 4th. And Nintendo, man, their first party output this year has been absolutely insane. They, launched with Mario Kart, straight into Donkey Kong Bonanza a couple months later, Pokemon Legends ZNA, that's coming out October 16th. And then we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment on November 6th. Kirby Air Riders on November 20th, which I'm actually really excited for, that Kirby Air Riders game. And then, Metroid Prime 4 closing out the year on December 4th. And, as you see from a second ago in that trailer, cruising around on the motorcycle, and just that, as soon as I saw that in the trailer, I was like, yep, yeah. You introduce a motorcycle into a game and my ears immediately perk up. No matter what the damn game is, motorcycles equal curious. I've seen people online, kind of be a little bit worried about the inclusion of the motorcycle in Metroid Prime 4, being like, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. But to me, you throw a damn motorcycle in any video game, and that's a video game I want to play more than I wanted to play it before I knew that it had a motorcycle in it. Does that sentence add up? I think that it works. It's good enough. We'll go with it. But in kind of that same vein, we had Hades 2 got a release date for, I think that is dropping September 25th. And that is going to be a console exclusive for the Switch. And it's going to be available on Switch 1 and Switch 2. So great move by Nintendo there. To grab this as a timed exclusive, a third-party timed exclusive. You got to have those for your new console. And, I was actually kind of thinking about it, and I'm not even 100% sure if this is a Nintendo decision, per se, because I think Supergiant did the same thing with Hades 1. I believe Hades 1 launched on Switch 1 before going to Xbox and PlayStation, so they may just have, a significantly larger audience on Nintendo than PlayStation and Xbox, which that kind of makes sense because the Switch just has a significantly larger audience, a significantly larger player base than PlayStation and Xbox with the Switch 1. So, well, I guess, I don't know. You compare PS5 and PS4 if you combine those into one, assuming that this will obviously be able to run on PS4 if it's going to run on Switch 1. So, but regardless, it might just be a situation of, the Switch audience, they went out there and supported the hell out of Hades 1, so we're going to launch Hades 2 exclusively for the Switch 2 for a limited time on the console market, and then it'll come to PlayStation and Xbox later. So, yeah, I you cannot blame them for their decision. It's however it panned out, however the decision was made, rather it be Nintendo going to Supergiant and being like, hey, we want your game exclusively, or rather it be Supergiant just being like, yeah, we're a smaller team, we're going to prioritize where our players are at. And if they view Switch and PC as the two main markets that they want to capitalize on at launch, then yeah, dude, that's totally reasonable in my book. So it's becoming a really interesting year in terms of, when we're talking about Game of the Year and having that full discussion, it's like, oh boy, we are really starting to stack up some juggernauts in contention for Game of the Year, because Hades 2, as you see there, September 25th, releasing that will be eligible for Game of the Year contention. It will be eligible to, be nominated for Game of the Year. Metroid Prime won't, with it releasing in December, which I agree with everybody who says that that's fucking crazy. I think that you should probably hold your award show in January, maybe even February, to allow all the games from the previous year to actually be included and for the critics to have time to play them. And I would agree with that. But at the end of the day, Metroid Prime will not be eligible. And I get it from one angle of like, the marketing is really ramping up and that you're starting to get a lot of those ad dollars rolling in towards the end of the year, preparing for Black Friday, preparing for Christmas. And so I get it from that angle, but at the same time, it's like, damn, dude, Indiana Jones is going to get snubbed. Marvel Rivals is going to get snubbed. And then next year, Metroid Prime is going to get snubbed. No matter how good it is, it's not going to be nominated for Game of the Year 2026. I think the last time that a game that released the previous year was nominated the next year was Smash in 2018. I think it was nominated for Game of the Year in 2019. I could be wrong on that, but it doesn't happen often. So it's a bummer for Metroid Prime, but we're looking at this is one of those years where I think there's 7-8 games that are genuinely Game of the Year contenders. Usually listen, let's be honest. And no offense to certain games. And I'll even throw one of my favorite games of all time in that list. A Plague Tale Requiem, 2022. It's like, okay. I love that game. I think it's one of the best stories of all time in the history of video games. But Game of the Year? For someone like me, sure. But that doesn't feel like a overall general consensus. That's not the style of game that you generally think of when you think of Game of the Year. Something like Stray, you don't think of that as Game of the Year material. But this year, it's like, oh yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I think of that as Game of the Year material. I think of Donkey Kong Bonanza as Game of the Year material. I think of Expedition 33 as Game of the Year material. Split Fiction, I think of that as Game of the Year material. I think of Death Stranding 2, absolutely, as Game of the Year material. You got, Ghost of Yotei on the horizon. You got The Outer Worlds 2 on the horizon. You have, big games still left to release in 2025. I mean, it's in Hollow Knight Silksong is absolutely, it's probably, Hollow Knight Silksong might win the whole fucking thing. And now it's like, well, hey, here's Supergiant, Team Cherry and Supergiant, the two indie darlings going head to head. Would you still consider Supergiant indie? Regardless, it's, yeah. So also, I should mention this. It is, they say here, we're excited to offer a retail version of Hades 2 for Nintendo Switch 2 later this year. This version will also be compatible with the original Switch, and it comes on a standard physical game card and also includes a full color character compendium booklet with artwork from the game and a download code for the Hades 2 original soundtrack featuring nearly 4 hours of music and a reversible cover. The retail edition will cost $49.99 in North America. So it is getting a physical release. Hades 2 is getting a physical release, and I think that that's probably when we'll Yeah, probably. I think that's probably when we'll see it launch for Xbox and PlayStation as well. So that will be in November 20th for the physical release. So launching in September, a 2-month exclusive period. That seems more like a Supergiant decision than a Nintendo decision, now that I'm thinking about it. And I think it was kind of similar with the first, with Hades 1. I think Hades 1 was only exclusive to Nintendo for a small period of time. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I am. But yeah, Hades 2 coming out very, very soon. All right, let's talk the old Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. We got an interview from Neil Druckmann. He, what was it, Variety, I believe he did an interview with. Yeah, it was with Variety. So we got some key details that I pulled out here that I want to discuss with you all. He said the team is firing on all cylinders. It's the most expansive game Naughty Dog has ever made, and maybe the most expensive. So The Last of Us 2 was around $220 million, which, Like, if I'm being honest, that almost seems kind of low by today's standards. Like, when you look at TLOU 2, and is this trailer running at damn 4K? Hold on one second. Let me make sure this damn trailer's running at 4K. We're not tolerating no 1080p. See, that's the thing. Where we got that damn 1080p. We don't tolerate 1080p around these parts with the fiber internet. We got to have that shit running in 4K. I want that crystal clear. I want you to be able to see the pores on that damn on the back of that lady's head. All right, so The Last of Us 2. What the hell was I saying? Something. Oh yeah, it was an expensive game by 2020 standards. It was probably one of the most expensive games ever made at that time. But by today's standards, when you're talking about, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to cost $1 billion, if that's even true, it's like, oh damn, TLOU 2 for coming under 300 million, like way under 300 million, $220 million. It's so wild how fucking expectations are. Shit's just getting so expensive to the point where I'm like, $220 million, good job. That seems like a reasonable budget for that game. But yeah, so this maybe cracking somewhere around that $300 million range. That doesn't even seem all that. You're talking about a new IP, a sci-fi new IP that's being built from the ground up. Like, yeah, of course, that's going to be the most expensive game they've ever made. That doesn't surprise me. Made for brand new technology. That doesn't shock me whatsoever. And Neil Druckmann's also talking about here that they've already been approached by different Hollywood studios to adapt it, but the priority right now is to make a fantastic video game first with Intergalactic. And this is just another example, in my opinion, of Hollywood, the desperation in Hollywood to grab those video game IP and turn them into movies, television shows, whatever. Because I think Split Fiction and Expedition 33 both got movies greenlit before their games even released, which is like, seemingly trying to do the same thing here with Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. It's just, yeah. I mean, hey, they're making a lot of money with your Minecrafts and your Marios and your Last of Us and your Fallouts and your... So I don't blame them. And there was also that story that Call of Duty has a movie coming out sometime. I think it just was greenlit recently, so it's going to be a little bit, but like, okay, Call of Duty. If you can make Minecraft into a movie, if you can make Mario into a movie, if you can make Sonic into a movie, then sure, why not Call of Duty as well? But Neil Druckmann goes on to talk about how the gameplay, kind of talking about what to expect from the standpoint of like what gameplay experience you're going to get with Intergalactic. And he said Uncharted was realistic, a character-driven action game with an emotional story. The Last of Us added RPG elements and wide linear design. Continue that trajectory forward, add sci-fi, and you start to get a sense of what we're doing. And then we've gotten even more ambitious than that. So that quote there, The Last of Us added RPG elements and wide linear design. Continue that trajectory forward. That makes me kind of continue that trajectory forward, add sci-fi, and you start to get a sense of what we're doing. That makes me kind of think that it might be an open world game. Like, is this going to be an open world fucking sci-fi? Are you going to be roaming one planet? Because Neil Druckmann also talked about being very inspired by Elden Ring, just from a design standpoint. And I guess the freedom that is on offer with Elden Ring, because obviously here as he's talking, it definitely does not sound like they're making a Souls-inspired game in terms of combat, so maybe it's a Souls-inspired game in terms of exploration, maybe no, waypoints, maybe no hand-holding in terms of navigation and shit like that, which is becoming a very, popular trend over the last few years, where you're seeing like Hell Is Us come out. You're seeing games come out and having mixed results with that as like their main focus of being, hey, we're going to not tell the player where to go, not tell them what to expect around each corner, go and figure it out for yourself. And I definitely think that, Elden Ring certainly, but Breath of the Wild is really the game that kicked that whole trend off. And maybe when Neil Druckmann, because I think it was Ben Hansen from MinMax who broke that story that Intergalactic was inspired by Elden Ring in a lot of ways. Maybe it's just the thing of that was the most recent thing that Neil Druckmann had been playing, and he was like, oh yeah, I think we can configure this into Intergalactic to some capacity. But I wonder, when thinking about a game like that, this audience is so so dissimilar from, and I can speak for myself of somebody who I don't really like the idea of Naughty Dog going in an even more quote unquote wide linear. Like, I don't necessarily want them to expand much beyond, like, Seattle in The Last of Us 2 is pretty damn open, pretty damn big. I don't know if I necessarily need more open than that. You know, there's sections of Uncharted 4 that are pretty open. I don't know if I need more open than that. I like their games to feel like to have some level of restraint in terms of, I want it to be a cinematic blockbuster, and I want to kind of, I think the one thing you can argue about Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us 2 is that they might be a little too long. You know what I mean? And I don't really need those games to be any longer than they already are. So we'll see. You know, I would not be looking forward to a 50-hour Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet. I'll tell you that. That would bum me out. I really do hope it's a 15-20 hour game, something of that ilk. But yeah, I'm happy to hear that they're talking about, yeah, you can expect some Uncharted-esque gameplay and shit like that. So I'm hoping that means there's going to be third-person shooter elements as well, because, you know, when you look at Intergalactic in that opening trailer and you see the saber pulsating sword thing, it's like, oh boy. That's when people really started to go, like, are you really going to make a damn Souls thing? Are we going to be just rolling around on the ground and like stamina meters and all of the rest? But him saying that makes me think, okay, now you'll have your blasters, you'll be able to go Han Solo, cover shooting, all of that shit. And I hope that they really, because the melee combat in The Last of Us 2 was so unbelievably good. So I hope that they triple down on those aspects where it's not just, you know, running around with this sword and that's your melee combat and that's the only kind of emphasized aspect of melee combat. I hope they do emphasize and you know, showcase a lot of what made TLOU 2 so special in terms of that hand-to-hand combat. Like, I hope that we can get some of that. And I know it wouldn't make sense to, like, that robot that you see in the trailer wouldn't make sense to go up to that robot squaring up, ready to fucking, you know, put your dukes up. Like, getting a boxing match with a robot, that's suicide. I understand that. But, you know, maybe if there's some human enemies around, but you're out in space, you're abandoned. I can understand why that maybe wouldn't be so much of a focus, just given the context of it's a sci-fi game. But I don't know. The melee combat, the hand-to-hand combat was just so good in TLOU 2. It would be a shame to abandon that. So yeah, I cannot wait to see more. And if rumors are to be believed from the insider gamings of the world that a trailer is set to appear at an upcoming State of Play, and if not that, maybe the Game Awards, you know, kind of they're speculating that a trailer could be shown sooner than we expect for Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. So I'm pumped to see more. You know, whenever a big dog rolls out, like whenever you wake the big dog up, you expect big shit, you know, and I don't think there's many studios that you expect all that much from. Listen, I shouldn't say, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's many studios where you're like really surprised by what they're going to deliver, or it feels like with Naughty Dog you can set your expectations almost anywhere and they might even be able to surpass your wildest expectation. Same thing with like GTA 6 with Rockstar. It's like, oh yeah, these teams are given 10 years and a blank check budget. They can go and listen, once again, certainly I understand that Rockstar and Naughty Dog, like Rockstar's in a totally different league in terms of they really are truly given a blank check. And like, if they told Take-Two tomorrow, we need $2 billion and another 3 years in development, like that would be given without a shadow of a doubt because they would make it back. It's like a certain cash cow. And this was even the case before the online, and now it's just a totally different benchmark and a totally different bar with the online. Like, they're making ridiculous money, but every single Grand Theft Auto game was the best-selling game of whatever console generation that it released on. GTA 3 Vice City, San Andreas, all bestsellers for the PS2. GTA 4 bestseller for the PS3 and 360, and GTA 5 for PS4. So it's like, yeah, they can do whatever the fuck they want, any budget, any asking price, they're gonna get it. Naughty Dog's probably the not close second. It's a very distant second, but they're probably number 2 on that list. Where it's just like, that's why the expectations are so high for a team like that, because they deliver quality that's kind of unparalleled, other than a few other companies out there. So, but it's like, and I've talked about this 100 times, so I apologize for the redundancy, but like a Resident Evil 9, it's like, yeah, you know what you're gonna get with that. I cannot fucking wait, but it's like, you know what you're gonna get. Wolverine, got a pretty good idea what you're going to get. Spider-Man 3, you got a pretty good idea what you're going to get. You're really excited for these games, and these studios make excellent titles, but it's like, yeah, pretty sure I know what I'm going to get from them, and that's awesome. Give me more of it. I love that shit. But it's like, with Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, I'm like, I have no fucking idea what this thing is. I mean, you go from Crash to Jak and Daxter. It's like, that's a pretty big leap, but now we're going from Jak and Daxter to Uncharted. It's like, oh my god, that's an incredibly big leap. And it's like Uncharted to The Last of Us. It's like, that's a pretty drastic leap tonally. And then even from The Last of Us to The Last of Us 2, it's like, oh my god, that is a monumental leap forward in terms of gameplay and design. And so it's like, I'm happy that, and we actually have a story about that. We'll hit on it in a second, because we got 2 Naughty Dog stories back to back here. But I'm happy that they are one of the few studios that's allowed to really flex their creative muscle whenever they see fit. And it's like, if you want to abandon an IP for 10 years, Uncharted, it's been 10 years. By the time Intergalactic comes out, it will have been 10 years since Lost Legacy. And good. Like, give it time to breathe. Whenever it's with anything. If there's too much of something, like an oversaturation, people get tired of it. Other than Call of Duty, I guess. But yeah, so shout out to Intergalactic. Can't wait to see more. But not only do we have Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, new details and information, we also have The Last of Us 3. So I shouldn't say The Last of Us 3. So the specific quote here is that Neil Druckmann says that he's working on multiple Last of Us projects beyond the television show. And so let me read actually verbatim here. This is, so I pulled this article up from Push Square to get because he expands on it a little bit more, where he says, he also mentions the various games he's contributing to, plural. We know that Naughty Dog is... So this is Push Square, the article from Push Square. And he says, we know the Naughty Dog is cooking up multiple single-player projects, with Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet being its primary focus for now. But later in the interview, he mentions that the team did debate whether to go straight into The Last of Us 3, but it was passionate about the sci-fi story of Intergalactic, and so it decided to place its focus there first. He explained, we were debating whether we should just go straight into The Last of Us 3, and we had a really long period where we looked at ideas for maybe what could be in that game. We looked at, we have Uncharted as an IP, we have Jak and Daxter as an IP, but the team was really excited to do the sci-fi thing that we've been talking about for a while, and that's where our passion lies. So that's where we're moving forward. And they go on to say, it makes sense for the team to do something different, as Intergalactic will likely prove a nice palate cleanser for the studio, but our guess is that The Last of Us 3 is also in very early production behind the scenes. It's likely a small team of writers and designers at this stage, but we suspect that that's what the studio will move on to next. So, certainly some speculation in here. His specific quote, not, he does say, with all the various Last of Us things I'm working on, not just the show, with all the various games I'm working on, the biggest one that takes up the most time is Intergalactic. So, yeah, with all the various Last of Us things I'm working on, not just the show, with all the various games I'm working on, yeah, that definitely does sound like, with all the various games I'm working on, one of those is probably going to be The Last of Us, just with the way that, with all the various Last of Us things I'm working on, not just the show, with all the various games I'm working on. It's... that you got to read into that a little bit, but I would assume that means, yeah, there's The Last of Us 3 is cooking. So I listen. The Last of Us 3, that's going to be a task. I think they made the right decision to move on to a new IP first, and to give once again, talking about just giving these IP some breathing room, giving these different IP a little bit of room to breathe, a little bit of time for people to miss them, because I still do think that, I don't think the overall kind of, I don't think it's an overall sort of negative response or an overall negative sort of feeling towards The Last of Us 2. Like, in general, I don't think that's true, but I do think that there's still a lot of negativity surrounding that game, and it's definitely starting to come back around, just like all things do, where at first people are really, really mad, and then later on they chill out, and it's like, oh damn, well, this plays really, really good. And I think that's the thing that people are hoping for with Intergalactic. It's just like, yeah, man, The Last of Us 2 plays so damn well. We hope we get more of that and I think that's a big reason why people want more Last of Us. It's like, this gameplay is just so good. I mean, what you're seeing right here, Ellie prone under the Jeep, and then she's about to she's going to flip over, and like she's lying on her side right there, and then she ends up laying on her back completely prone, and it's just, there's some impressive tech on display in these games, and just such visceral melee combat, and we already talked about all that, so I don't mean to be redundant here, but it's a task, no doubt, to figure out what is the right step forward for this franchise, because people want it to return. People want more Last of Us. People love this IP. People love these characters. But I think that, if I'm being completely honest, I do think you did a lot of harm in The Last of Us 2 with those characters. I don't know if I love this franchise. I don't know if I'd be pumped to jump back in and play as Ellie or Abby. I look at those characters as not irredeemable, but somewhat close. Like, the purpose of The Last of Us 2 from inception to launch was to create a game about brutality, hatred, and in doing that, I do think an aspect of it is creating kind of irredeemable characters, at least to some degree, and they did that. And you don't really end up liking either of those characters by the end of the game, and it's impressive from the standpoint of, like, I've never really seen that done in a story where I don't have anyone to root for, and I'm forced to play as like two people that I equally kind of dislike based on the choices that you made as a writer. And I don't necessarily know if that's a positive or a negative. I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult, what I'm saying, but it's certainly something. It's something unusual, which I guess in that aspect, we don't see much that is unusual. Unfortunately, most stories are very, very predictable. This one was absolutely not predictable, but sometimes predictable is kind of the best medicine for the story. Sometimes predictable makes the most sense. It doesn't always have to be the shock factor, oh, I can't believe it, I didn't see it coming. Sometimes predictable is good. So, yeah, they have a lot of work ahead of them of what, I'm curious what y'all want to see moving forward for The Last of Us. Like, I don't even know if I want The Last of Us 3, because I don't really know what that would entail. I don't know who I would be playing as, what the plot would be. Like, I would kind of be down to play as Tommy through this game and see the events of TLOU 2 unfold through Tommy's eyes. And like, as he's tracking down Abby and them, I'd be curious to play through that as Tommy. But once again, there's definitely different avenue. You could go as like Marlene, the play as Marlene as she's rising up through the ranks, and I think that would be fun, as you kind of see how brutal she can be, and how she gained such a prominent position with the Fireflies. And I'd be down for that. I'd be down for something that is absolutely nothing to do with the characters that we know at all. I would be curious about something like State of Decay, where it's more of this RPG focused, this RPG centric experience. And do I go in and I create my own characters? Do you have remnants from that Last of Us multiplayer game where it is like based around, creating your own character and having your building up a town like Jackson, and maybe that's the primary goal of the game, is simply just survival, but like a higher budget State of Decay, right, where you have the combat, the gameplay, the feel of The Last of Us, but it's more about you being out in the world and making these decisions to ensure your survival and crafting and base building. And I don't like a lot of that stuff in games, but I would be curious if you can attach it to a combat system that is that rewarding, that is that fun to play. Like, I'm certainly curious to play a State of Decay, meets The Last of Us sort of intersection there, where maybe it's 30% less semi-strategy, 30% less in-depth mechanics in that regard, 30% less of the survival elements, and 30% higher production value, better combat, stuff like that, then I'd be curious. Definitely would be curious. And then maybe do you make just like, is that a multiplayer game? Or a game with multiplayer elements, taking it back to the days of like where a multiplayer game could just be a multiplayer game and it didn't have to be this living, breathing thing that would go on to, exist in perpetuity for the next 40 years. It's like, oh, it's 2047 and I'm ready to go and play my match of Fortnite. It's like, I don't think every game has to be that, nor do I think every game can be that. Fortnite, games like that are anomalies. And to think that you can just do that, it's like kind of arrogant. It's okay for things to exist for a little bit and then not exist. Like, that's life. So shout out to, is that just my closing remark for every story? Shout out to whatever the fuck I'm talking about. Great podcasting. But yeah, so shout out to Neil Druckmann for giving us some deets on some little hints, a little nugget right there for The Last of Us 3. So for some reason, it is time to talk about the PlayStation 6. So Insider Gaming reported that the PlayStation 6 will come with a digital-only variant and a digital version that you can buy a detachable disc drive separately. So it will be, according to their report, there will not be like a built-in disc drive for the PlayStation 6. And listen, I do not love this, because this pretty much guarantees that the PS6 will be a DRM machine. With those detachable disc drives, it's going to have to connect to the internet. But I mean, I see the numbers, I see the numbers out there, and I know we're in the minority. I know that the physical media fans out there are in the minority, and I'll support the physical format until the day I die. And if I have to do it through this avenue, if it has to become a DRM box and if I have to resort to this, then I guess that's the only option, unfortunately. Well, I guess you can just go buy Nintendo first party games and only buy Nintendo first party games. But a big part of physical media for me is not just the preservation, but owning a product that I can resell if I play a game and I don't like it, and having the ability to resell the damn thing, get some money back for it. Like, that's a very valuable aspect of physical media for me. So, but yeah, I mean, no doubt that this information is a bummer. It's definitely a bummer. I am not looking forward to this dystopic fucking future where we all know at some point it's gonna come. That time is going to happen where we're phased out. The physical media fans are phased out. But hey, at least with this, at least having the option for a detachable disc drive, it's such a bummer that we're in this position where it's like beggars can't be choosers, I guess. All you motherfuckers out there who abandoned physical media, y'all abandoned ship. And y'all leave us with these with having to settle for this horse shit. But it's and you see that the first party software for PlayStation, they still do sell really, really well physically. So they're not going to abandon the physical format entirely. And they also talk about here that it's going to have a slimmer, kind of more standard design to cut costs. And yeah, I'm very, very much in favor of that for the PlayStation 6. I think the PS5 is a hideous, hideous machine, but you got to cut costs. You gotta cut costs, because we're getting to that point where it's starting to look like you're trying to shape the console market into the PC market, and that doesn't make any sense whatsoever from the standpoint of like casual game enjoyers and just getting the normal everyday person in the door. You're not doing that with $1,300 devices and machines, and if you're charging $1,000 for any product that you're putting out there, it's like, okay, well, cool. You just created a very niche device, a very niche piece of hardware. So cutting costs, I am in favor of that. And so cutting costs by removing the disk drive, and then, then the cost is going to be put on to us to have to go out there and buy the detachable disk drive. But at the end of the day, you got to get people into your console ecosystem. And you can't do that with $1,000 devices. You just can't. So if they're cutting costs there, making it a standard, slimmer design for the PS6, I think both of those things make financial sense, at least. Is it a bummer? Is it very, very disappointing from the standpoint of a physical media fan? Absolutely. But I understand it from a financial, standpoint. But I think for me, the thing that, all this news and information, like, sure, we'll see when it gets there. And I think that's a big part of this, where this news is breaking, and I'm met with like such a feeling of apathy, such a feeling of like, truly, I do not give a fuck to talk or to hear about the PS6, because there's been a lot of this. There's been a lot of talk about the handheld coming out, a lot of talk about the just all of this stuff, and then sure, some of it's interesting, but a lot of it my eyes glaze over right now, where I'm like, why are we talking about a PlayStation 6 whenever this is what we've gotten for PS5 so far? It's like, it's been a great generation, no doubt. In terms of video games, it's been a fantastic generation. It just hasn't been a generation. Like, these games that we're playing on our PS5 are all PlayStation 4 games. Not all, but the majority of games we're playing on the PS5 are PS4 games. It doesn't feel like we've had a lot of like really next-gen experiences. And you're talking, the PS6, they're talking about 2027, 2 years from now. That just feels bizarre. When we have been met with like almost nothing but PlayStation 4 games. Like, the biggest and baddest games that we're playing on the PS5 are running on the PlayStation 4. And it's like, I just kind of get into this headspace of trying to figure out, like, what is the purpose of this thing? Like, are we really ready for a new generation? Because it doesn't even feel like we've left the last generation behind, and it doesn't even feel like we're close to leaving the PlayStation 4 behind. Resident Evil 9 is rumored to be releasing on the PlayStation 4. I think the new Call of Duty is releasing on the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 6 for what? They're still going to be making games for the PS4. These big publishers. And so it's just, maybe my opinion on all of this will change after we get a Grand Theft Auto 6, and after we get a Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and after we get a Wolverine, or these games that truly feel like defining, like generation defining titles that are obviously built for PS5, obviously built for current gen technology, and cannot possibly run on a PlayStation 4. Then, like, maybe at that point it's like, okay, cool, yeah, we're starting to get these experiences, but we're 5 years into the console life cycle, and it's like a slightly upgraded PlayStation 4. And it's not even that it's a slightly upgraded PlayStation 4, it's a significant upgrade. It's just It doesn't fucking matter about the hardware. It does not fucking matter about the tech if these companies are not going to utilize the tech. How many times do we see these just beefy fucking $75,000 PCs unable to run some Unreal Engine 5 game because it's a stutterfest or because it's a... You know what I mean? Like, there's constant issues that these PC games have because whatever, Dead Space or EA or whichever game from whichever publisher isn't prioritizing the PC. They aren't prioritizing that platform. Whichever platform it may be, PlayStation, Xbox, you see it all the time where games do not run well on really, really powerful hardware. And it's like, it's not a problem of the hardware. It's a problem of the developer. It's a problem of not prioritizing that piece of hardware. And whenever you're releasing games for PlayStation 4 in 2029, it's like, okay, I guess sure, I'll play them. I'll play these PS4 games on my PS6. It just, that equation, that math doesn't really make sense to me. I'm all for having more powerful tech out there. I'm all for having the option of, like, if you want to go out and buy you a PlayStation 6, sure, knock yourself out. But for me personally, like, looking at this, you're going to have to show me something. You know what I mean? When you launch this thing, you're going to have to show me something. I do not feel that, once again, it's been a fantastic generation. And it's been a fantastic generation that feels like it could have all released on last generation hardware, other than a select few games, And it's like, yeah, well, you get a better experience on the PS5. It's like, cool. Cool. $500 to get a slightly better experience for these games. Less loading times. Dope. $500 less loading times. I see reflections. Cool. Fucking real cool. I just, you're going to have to make a more compelling proposition, at least for me. It's going to have to be much more compelling than it's just going to be a better version of a PlayStation 5 game. It's just going to, and at that point, it's just going to be a better version of a PlayStation 4 game. So that doesn't sound appealing whatsoever to me. But, maybe once again, do you close off the generation with The Witcher 4? Do you close off the generation with fucking Horizon 3? And you're like really pushing this technology to its limits, and it's like, okay, it's time to move on. The big dogs they're being squeezed, and you're starting to see the limitations of the technology. But I just do not feel we're even close to seeing the limitations of the current technology, this generation of technology, this generation of hardware. I don't feel like we're even close to seeing like it fully maximized and utilized to its best effect. Like, I think the one of the most prominent examples of a game that is truly a showcase for this generation is Horizon Forbidden West. It's a fucking PlayStation 4 game, and it's like it runs better on the PS5 certainly, but it's still a PlayStation 4 game. So it's like when the shackles are removed, what is Guerrilla gonna really be able to do with this generation of technology? Horizon 3 in 2028 or I guess in 2020. Yeah, so when they release their game, it's going to be another fucking cross-gen game. It's just, I don't know. It feels like it's kind of iPhone adjacent at this point. Like, if you want to upgrade, and then sure, have fun, go and upgrade. But the actual improvements, the actual advancements, it's it's all software dependent at this point. It's all software dependent. Where if they do, obviously they're going to have a big showcase or a big event, whatever, if they still do showcases, state of play, whatever, and it's going to come down to like, what are you showing? Because you look at something like Spider-Man 3, where it's like that will probably be one of those games early launch window titles, maybe a new Gran Turismo, and it's going to come down to that. Like the next God of War, I assume, will be somewhere around early PlayStation 6, and we talked about Horizon, but it's like, which of those games will I not be able to play on my PlayStation 5? And if the answer is none, unless I see something crazy from a tech standpoint, where I'm just like, oh my god, that is, you're truly talking about, a feature that I absolutely cannot, or shit in my PlayStation 5 game that will, it will break my damn system to the point of there's all this the crazy, open world destructibility and the particle effects and all these cool physics and all this shit that just cannot run on my PlayStation 5 at all without bricking the console or without dropping the frame rate down to 12 frames per second. Like, if it's stuff like that, then sure, I'll upgrade. But there's a lot to, there's a lot to show to I think, to get people in the door for a PlayStation 6, because I don't feel that people overall, like, I don't think that and once again, maybe I'm speaking just from my own standpoint, my own viewpoint, but it doesn't seem to me that the overall sentiment around the PlayStation 5 has been overly positive. It's a great console with publishers who are not prioritizing the console, or with publishers who are still relying on PlayStation 4 and the sales of their PlayStation 4 releases, which inherently are going to harm the experience that you get. Like, it's not going to be a truly next gen, I guess current gen now, but I don't even know if we can call it current gen. Everything's current gen. PS4 is current gen, PS5's current gen. I don't know if next gen is even going to exist anymore. And I don't want to doom and gloom and all that shit. It's games are in many ways better than they ever have been. I am having a blast playing all these damn PS4 games, but at the end of the day, it's playing a whole lot of shit that could have run on a PlayStation 4, and a lot of games that do run on a PlayStation 4, and you get a better experience on a PS5. And I don't know, it's going to depend on the price, because I think Moore's Law is Dead was talking about it, where he was talking about a big focus for PlayStation is to really make sure that they're cutting price and cutting costs wherever they can, to have a console that is releasing and having a console that is like a household name, something that is the general average everyday consumer actually can afford, because that's the market that they're in. They have to sell the software. That's where they make all their money, is from selling the software. And so yeah, it's that's the right move. And if you do get, if you're talking about another $500 console or something, even $600, I think people are going to be willing to bite that bullet. And I think it'll have, I'm not even saying this from the standpoint of, I'm just purely talking from my personal viewpoint on it, is like, I don't feel like I am personally ready to upgrade to a PlayStation 6, because I don't feel like I've played many games at all on my PlayStation 5 that are fully taking advantage of that hardware. But I'm not saying, what my whole argument here isn't anything from the standpoint of like, oh, I don't think the PlayStation 6 is going to do well. I do think it will do very well. Especially if the rumors are to be believed, if the reports are to be believed, that they are very price conscientious going into the next generation, and they're trying to make sure that this is a mass market, that this console has mass appeal. And like, yeah, without a doubt, if they're charging $500-$600 for this thing, it's gonna sell, another 100 million units or whatever. Like that's the price point that I think people in general are going to be willing to pay. But I do think, like, you need to fucking roll out your Bloodborne 2, break glass in case of emergency, roll out that damn Bloodborne 2. FromSoft just signed that exclusive deal with Nintendo for, what's that shit called? Fucking Blood of the Dawnwalker. That's CDPR, ex-CDPR, Duskblood. That's the FromSoft shit. They just signed that deal with Switch 2 for an exclusive game for 2026. you need to be fucking hitting up FromSoft to get Bloodborne 2 exclusively for PlayStation 6. Like, you got to have a few of those games, that are, because like you had Demon Souls that was your launch, like your big exclusive at launch for PlayStation 5, and then you roll into like Ratchet, Returnal, and then it's like, well, God of War Ragnarok, PS4 game, Horizon Forbidden West, PS4 game, Miles Morales, PS4 game, and yeah. But then you start rolling into your Spider-Man 2s, and they're starting to pick it up a little bit, but the release cadence has fell off a cliff as well, where it's like you used to get, 3-4 first-party PlayStation games a year, and now it's like, you get one or two. More often than not, like one big one and maybe one smaller one, maybe two smaller ones. Anywho, it's enough fucking bitching from my old grumpy ass. But hey, curious, definitely curious to see. Once again, man, I'm never gonna be the person online who is like, I don't deal in absolutes. I don't deal in, like, I'm never going to say, I'm not going to buy a Switch 2. I'm not going to buy a PlayStation 6. You see that shit all the time on the internet, where it's the people who are like, they're dying on that hill of, I'm not going to buy a Switch 2. And then a month later, they buy a Switch 2. It's like, no, convince me. I'll buy. I'm a fucking capital C consumer. I am a fucking idiot when it comes to spending money on shit I don't need. You can convince me. You can certainly convince me to go out and buy this thing. It's just going to take some convincing. It's you're going to have to show me something that is truly, truly impressive. Because I didn't buy PS5 at launch. Like, I didn't buy the PlayStation 5 day one, in which there was a shortage, and then there were factors like that. But I was like, dude, I'm playing Miles Morales on my PS4. I'm having fun. What I'm seeing on the PS5, like, I'm seeing the comparisons. I'm looking at the two versions, and it's like, sure, it runs better, but it's the same game. It's the same fucking game. And there's benefits, there's pros, there's cons. The pro is that more PlayStation players in 2029 will be playing PlayStation games than ever before, because there's going to be 100 million PlayStation 4 users, there's going to be 100 million PlayStation 5 users, and then there's going to be whatever 20-30 million PlayStation 6 users at that time. And all three of those consoles are going to be supported. I don't love that. Purely from like a selfish standpoint, it's like, cut the fucking cord. Let's move forward. But then I think about it from like a trying to be somewhat logical. It's like, yeah, that's nice that you bought a system in 2017 for $200-300, and you're still going to be playing Resident Evil 10 on it in 2030 on your PlayStation 4 or whatever. It's like, from a financial standpoint, it's like, I get it. And then if you're introducing handhelds into the mix, and you're wanting these games to run natively on that handheld, yeah, having games that are still releasing on the PlayStation 4 in 2030, they're going to run really damn well on a handheld. If you're just running a PlayStation 4 game on your handheld. And I don't like it. I'll be honest. I think that everybody can tell that from the tone, from my demeanor. I don't like it. But I also don't want to feel like a snob where I'm like gatekeeping people from playing these experiences. But I think that when you are trying to sell a new console for $500-600 for people to buy, you do need something that is enticing those people to. I mean, $500-600, that's not like, no matter what fucking, we get into this such a delusional territory. We're seeing the Xbox ROG Ally X for $900, and it's like, okay, I get it from the standpoint of Asus. It's like, yeah, you don't make any money on software. You make all your money on hardware, so you got to sell that thing at a premium price point. And that is a very expensive, high-powered device, and there's no back end other than the hardware. Like, I get that. But we're in such delusional territory where it's like, if you think you're launching this, if we're getting into territory of like $1,000 consoles, yeah, you're going to be, you're not moving on from the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 anytime soon, because nobody's going to buy that shit. So it's normal people are still your main market. And normal people it's hard for normal people to justify $500-$600. You double that price point, you're not going to be happy with the results. But at the end of the day, that's the whole point here, is they're not going to do that. They're trying to do everything in their power to not raise those prices through the roof and to not have some exponential fucking increase from PS5 to PS6 where, like, I don't even think it's going to be the same price as a PlayStation 5 Pro. I think they're going to try to market this console to normal people, because when you look at PlayStation 5 Pro's sales, and it's like abysmal, it's in the toilet. Nobody's buying that shit, and it's not even like, I think they knew that nobody was going to buy that shit, so they priced it appropriately. They priced it for the absolute peak fucking capital C consumer who has a lot of expendable income. And then you're seeing, a lot of games do not prioritize the PS5 Pro at all. And that's, once again, what we're talking about with like Borderlands 4 and Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. And there's so many of these recent examples, Silent Hill 2, the remake. And there's so many of these recent examples where you're seeing games have real problems on the PS5 Pro. And it's like, of course they are. Because only 2 million people fucking own one. 3 million people own one. They're not going to prioritize that device. And yes, it's more powerful than a PS5. Yes, it's more powerful than a Series X. Yes, of course. But there's 10 times the amount of people on even a Series X than there are a PS5 Pro. These they can't fucking cater to, they gotta cater to where the people are. And so, yeah, I understand it from that standpoint for sure. But anyway, that's a lot of fucking rambling. We still got many more stories to hit through. Maybe I'll cut a couple of these. But yeah, PS5 or PS6 coming soon. And then it feels wildly unnecessary to even be talking about a fucking PS6 when we're going to be playing Resident Evil 9 on our PS4s. So SuckerPunch's Nate Fox did an interview with MinMax, and he it was one of those rapid fire. I love those fucking rapid fire Q&A things, but he was asked about Slycooper, like returning to the Slycooper franchise, and he says that only 10% of SuckerPunch Productions would be really excited to develop a new Slycooper game, saying that, pretty much it's been a long time since Slycooper has come out, and like, I get it, it's been fucking over a decade, and a lot of the staff that they've hired up for Yote and for Tsushima and even, Infamous Second Son, it's like, that's not, you're not hiring people who were major Slycooper fans to go and work on those games. And so, yeah, him saying about 10% of SuckerPunch would be really excited to develop a new Slycooper game. And I'm seeing a lot of backlash online. People being like, well, this is not how you should treat some of your most well-renowned and most respected, beloved IP. You don't just abandon your IP. And it's like, yeah, no, you should. You should abandon your IP if only 10% of the employees 10% of your developers, only 10% of your staff wants to work on this thing. That of course you should abandon the IP at that point. If nobody's going to be passionate about the work that they're doing, then yeah, abandon that shit. That's how you get situations where you're running into a Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, or you're running into a Skull and Bones, or whatever the case may be. It's a bunch of employees who are not passionate about the work that they're doing. They don't want to be making those projects, and then they're forced into making a project that they weren't hired to do that. Like, Rocksteady made single-player Batman games, and then, oh wow, we're making a big live service Suicide Squad game. That's like, no, that doesn't line up with what the vision was initially. That doesn't line up for the staff that you hired, the primary staff that you were hiring initially. It wasn't to make games like this. So when the passion isn't there, the final product isn't going to be good. And you'll see people be like, well, Astrobot did so well. Slycooper should come. Slycooper will do just as well as Astrobot. And it's like, yeah, sales wise it probably will. Sales wise it'll probably sell more than Astrobot, but Astrobot will be a better game because the team that made Astrobot wanted to make Astrobot. And the team that would be making Slycooper seemingly from what Nate Fox is saying here, would not want to make Slycooper. So, yeah, I don't know. I am all for like letting developers make what they want to make. And we talked about it a little bit ago with Naughty Dog of like, you got to move on. You know, it can't be Crash forever. It can't be Jak and Daxter forever. It can't be Uncharted forever. It can't be Last of Us forever. You got to have new shit coming out. And I'm saying this from somebody, I would much prefer to see a new Slycooper game, to see Sly 5 than to see Ghost 3. I would rather play Slycooper 5 than play Yotei. I would rather play Infamous 3 than all of that shit. I'd rather play Infamous 3 than a new Ghost game. I'd rather play Infamous 3 than a new Slycooper game. I would rather play Infamous 3 than anything SuckerPunch could make. But at the same time, I want them to make what they want to make. I want all of these teams to have the freedom to go out there and you know, if they're really passionate about something, to be able to create the thing that they're passionate about. You know, you run into situations where, you know, maybe Concord's not a good example, but when PlayStation is pushing so hard for these live service games and, you know, developers are feeling pressured to pitch live service games, you see the end result. Shit gets canceled. Studios get closed. Games fucking flop harder than any game we've ever seen before. You know, shit just sucks working under those conditions. So I'm at least thankful that SuckerPunch seemingly is not working under those conditions, and they're able to make the shit that they want to make, by and large. So yeah, I wasn't nearly as put off by this as a lot of people seem to be on the internet, who are really, really bothered that SuckerPunch had no intention, no interest in making a new Slycooper game. They were also talking about, oh boy, rambling like a motherfucker today. What time is it? Alright, let me start fucking rapid fire running through some of this shit. But the MinMax, they do dope ass shit over there. I love the rapid fire interviews. I loved them back in the Game Informer days. And here we go rambling, but Ben Hansen, I think, does the perfect fucking, and I know they have, you know, multiple contributors for the questions, but I think it's the perfect balance of like asking real questions that people are interested in, real questions that you know, you're interested in just purely from the standpoint of like game related questions that are pertaining to the like, what could you be working on in the future? Would you be interested in an Infamous remaster collection? Because that was something that Ben Hansen asked, where he was like, would you be okay with another team not named SuckerPunch remastering Infamous? And he was like, yes, sure, I'd be totally down for that. And it's like, I think it's just the correct balance of questions that we're actually curious about, and then also funny questions. It's like 80%, 70% questions that are actually interesting, and then 30% jokes. And it's like, that's the perfect fucking balance. You don't want to tip in the other direction of being silly, zany, kind of hippie. Like, you don't want to go too far in that territory, because you're not going to get these, like, these are good fucking pulls right here. You're talking the Slycooper revival. You're talking Infamous coming back. Like, there's good quotables in this interview, which is great for, you know, virality, if you want to get so shrewd in terms of just getting your name out there. Those are the type of questions that are great for getting your name out there. What the fuck do I know about getting your name out there? But anywho, I just, it really, really solid interview. Highly recommend it. And yeah, but speaking to the Infamous comeback, it's like that's the move, right? In terms of a Slycooper revival, in terms of an Infamous revival, it's like, yeah, let's get some remasters of these things, and maybe, you know, the remasters do really well, and it's like, well, we can staff up and build a smaller team. You know how Insomniac works, which we'll talk about in a little bit, where it's like a few teams. 3-4 teams. Maybe one team is of 20-30 employees, but they're working on a new Slycooper game, and they're really passionate. They took 20-30 people after Sly, you know, a remastered collection came out and sold 2.5 million copies in the first week or some crazy shit like that. And it's like, oh my God, players are really interested in Slycooper coming back. And then they're out there supporting it. So wonderful. Let's go and we're going to spin off a smaller team inside of SuckerPunch, 20-30 employees. staff up that people who are really passionate about Slycooper and go make a new Slycooper, make a dream Slycooper game. Infamous comes out, does gangbusters numbers, sells 3 million copies in the first week. Cool. Here's 50 employees to go make a new Infamous game. People who are specifically passionate about Infamous. Like, yeah. I think that's the move. And then still have your core team. If the core team is passionate about more Ghost of, if that's going to become the moniker, if that's going to become like the new franchise, Ghost of whatever, and they're still working on that. And then so you have multiple different irons in the fire. And I really like that strategy for development. And you don't get big blockbusters like a Naughty Dog release, or you don't get, like a Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, or a Grand Theft Auto 6 or whatever the case may be, but having something like Avowed and Pentiment and Grounded and The Outer Worlds 2 all being worked on simultaneously, or damn near simultaneously, like spinning these different plates and getting multiple, a wide variety of product that is releasing under your umbrella. It's, yeah, I think that's a good move. So shout out to MinMax for conducting that interview. And let's see here. I don't really want to weigh in too much on this because it spun up a whole controversy. And y'all know I don't like talking. I don't like interjecting any of that into the content that we make here, because I think that it just creates I think that's actually, and so here we go. I guess I already opened up the fucking ball of wax, and I'm not editing this shit, so here we have it. The lady who works at SuckerPunch and was working on Ghost of Yotei, and after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, she made some pretty horrible remarks regarding that, and was fired for those remarks, and it was a Blue Sky Post or whatever the fuck. And I just, listen, I am a free speech absolutist. I believe in free speech in my core. I believe you should be able to say whatever the fuck you want to say, but I also believe in, a business is going to do what a business is going to do. And if you say something out of pocket that can harm the product that the business is trying to make, SuckerPunch is a publicly traded, SuckerPunch is owned by a publicly traded company, with Sony. They can't tolerate shit like that. They can't have their employees just popping off at the mouth saying just wild shit right before their $300 million product is about to release. That's crazy. Even if you only harm the product, but you do see it, man. Every single SuckerPunch tweet, and listen, Twitter's not the real world, and that's very important to remember, but you see it in every single tweet, every single post, where people are like, we're not playing this damn game, we're not playing this game because of this, the employee, we're canceling our pre-order, whatever the case may be. And it's like, even if that's only, let's say that's only 2% of the overall consumer base, the overall audience for this game, that's still a lot of fucking money. That's a lot of money being left on the table. And so you're going to have to make those moves from a business standpoint. And it's more, to me, the thing that's so baffling about all of this is like, why do you feel so inclined to always have something to say about everything? That's the thing that is, and I understand the irony as I'm sitting here running my fucking mouth for over an hour about absolutely nothing, but it's like, I like talking about video games, you know what I mean? And there's you hear a lot about like the parasocial relationship between the audience to the creator, the audience searching for a parasocial relationship with the creator, but I don't think we talk enough about the creator creating a parasocial relationship with the audience, where it's like, why do you need to know every single opinion? Why do you feel the need to share every single opinion on every hot button issue, on every breakfast that you've had, and every lunch that you've had, every vacation that you've taken, every boyfriend and girlfriend and marital status, and I'm divorced, and now I'm single, and now I'm married, and now, like, why do you feel the need, why do you feel so inclined to share every single fucking opinion with a bunch of strangers? Why do you feel the need to share every life update with a bunch of fucking strangers? I don't get it. I've never understood that shit. Like, I got off of social media. Like, when I was a teenager, I realized that shit was crazy. It was like, you feel inclined to do that shit as a kid. And I was like on Facebook posting and on Twitter posting. And I was like 20 years old, 19 years old. I was like, this is fucking stupid. Why am I doing this? This is leading nowhere. It's not leading to anything positive. You know, why am I posting personal information about my life and my, political viewpoints or my social viewpoints? Like, these people don't fucking need to know that. Strangers on the internet, and even if it's people you know on the internet, like, you don't know them that well. Like, the people that you really know that well, you should talk to them privately about these issues, and hopefully they'll check you when you say some dumbass shit so that you don't go public with your stupid fucking opinion. It's like, yeah, there's gonna be consequences for the words you say. There's gonna be consequences for if you work at a fucking publicly traded company and you say something that sparks millions of views, because that's the thing as well. You think that you're posting your stuff out there to the couple hundred people that follow you, but anything could go viral at any moment. You know, anything you say at any moment, it has the likelihood of stumbling upon some curious eyeballs who don't know you, and then it becomes this thing where millions of people see it, and now it's a fucking huge problem for you. It's so selfish as well, where it's like, you're working at a company with hundreds of people who worked on this game, and we're a fucking month out from the release of this game. This is the time where marketing ramps up. This is the time where people are going to begin their pre-orders. This is the time where people are going to start purchasing that game. And you're giving them a reason to not. It's just, once again, I am fully in support of free speech of all kind. Like, saying vile, detestable shit. Like, I think you should have the ability to say that. But I also think a company should have their freedom to fucking fire you for if they think that you, because it's not just a Ghost of Yote problem. It's a pattern recognition problem of, oh boy, you remember that infamous remaster we were talking about? Hey, a week before release, this same person said some wild ass shit on social media. Remember that Slycooper remaster collection we were talking about? A month before release, the same person said some wild shit on social media, and we're having to put out that fire and putting out this fire. It's like, you can't have it. You can't have it. And I don't know this person. I've never followed this person, so I'm not even necessarily trying to, I'm not saying that this person has popped off with a bunch of crazy ass opinions in the past. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that, like, you have to understand where the business is coming from for making these decisions. Like, it's a business. It's a fucking business, and you can say all day in your bio, the opinions that I have do not reflect the my employer, or whatever the fuck the statement is. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because you're seeing that it does. You're seeing in every single social media post that SuckerPunch makes, it's now flooded with replies of people commenting about the thing you said on your personal blue sky thing that you never thought was going to get out there to the public, and of course it is going to. Of course it is going to. It doesn't matter if you're few 700-800 followers, whatever it is, that you don't know every single one of them. You don't, my opinion, what is my opinion worth at the end of the day? But in my opinion, talk about this shit privately with people. Real, hot button issues, talk about that shit privately with people. You don't have to share that stuff with the world. You don't have to share your breakfast and relationship status and every single update with the world. And we constantly talk about these parasocial relationships that are being formed where, everybody tries to paint the audience as the weirdos. And I'm not saying this person is a content creator, but everything is content, right? Like, everything that you put out there is content for someone to consume. And we often talk about how the audience develops these weird parasocial relationships with the creators, but we don't talk enough about how the creator puts all their fucking personal business and all their bullshit out there And so, like, once again, I know I don't have a large following or large audience or anything like that, but I have never once had, in the history of this channel's existence, someone hit me up in the comments and be like, talking about are you not going to comment on this news thing that just, I've been doing this for 5 fucking years. Never once have I had someone be like expecting me to comment on the latest political and social issue that's taking place. You know why? I don't fucking put it out there. I never have. Never will. And I guess this is probably the closest I've ever been to doing that. But it's still like, I don't do that shit. So my audience doesn't expect it. The parasocial relationship begins oftentimes with the creator of, you put your personal life out there. And then so, yeah, you start developing weird fucking fans who are like, oh, what's your relationship status? What are you still dating Timmy because you put Timmy all over your Facebook page, or what's going on there? It's you put all that shit out there, and it just seems like there's never any responsibility or accountability put on the creator to fucking keep some of your personal life to your goddamn self. It's crazy. Why do we feel the need to comment on fucking everything? And I guess here I am fucking commenting on this, and then I get it. This is the problem with on-the-fly production that I'm doing here, where I can't go back and edit this shit, because this is the type of shit that I probably would just completely cut out of a video, but because it's the same thing, where it's like, even talking about this as loosely as we're talking about this issue, I don't want this to be an expectation for like the next time an employee says some dumbass shit and gets fired that I comment about that, because I probably won't. Like, even just sitting here right now, I'm like, yeah, this is I shouldn't have even brought this shit up, but here we are in this conversation. But you know, it's just a, yeah, I guess my overall opinion on this is that it's weird to me that, like, and I've said it 100 times, it's just weird to me that we have to discuss like everything. Where, yeah, anywho, I could go on in fucking perpetuity with this. I'm gonna say the same shit over and over with like different fucking words, but essentially saying the same thing of like, I don't quite get why everybody feels the need to have an opinion about every single fucking thing. And yeah, it's just, at the end of the day, I am very damn grateful to have built up a small community. Like, when news breaks about video games, I'll have people hitting me up in the comments about the news that's breaking about video games. If it's been a couple days and I haven't talked about it, I'll actually have people hitting me up being like, dude, did you see this game announcement? Like, that warms my heart. It's such a great feeling to have built this audience in the way that this audience has been established. And like, I feel zero inclination or obligation to comment on anything other than games. And I also still feel that I have like I definitely think I have a more respectful kind of interaction with my audience than most other creators out there. And like, I'll hit you up in the comments and I'll shoot the shit with you. As long as we're talking about games, and y'all see it in the comments. As soon as like someone starts spouting off political shit, I'm out. I don't comment on it. You can talk to yourself in the comments about that. I'm not talking to you about that. You know, I'm not developing parasocial relationships, like, fucking period. I'm not talking to you about, you know, we're talking games and just games, and we're having respectful fucking conversation about games and just games. And it's like, that's what I wanted to do. That's always what I wanted to do. When I set out to do this, it was like, I just want to talk about games. And so I'm talking about games. And the audience responded accordingly. They just want to talk about games too. And that's exactly what the fuck I wanted. You know, I think you get out what you put in. Or you get out what you put out. Pause. Guess maybe don't get out what you put out. But there is some responsibility that should be put on the creator as well. Like, if you are putting your personal shit out there non-fucking stop, what else is your audience going to comment on? What else is your audience going to expect other than your personal life? Because that's all you fucking put out there. Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's just, it's, do I got a fucking stain on my shirt? That's goddamn wonderful. I didn't even, oh, that's not a stain, I don't think. The beauty of that does look like a stain on the, but I don't think it's an actual stain. Like, I think if you see it's not. Anywho, let's talk. God damn, this is gonna be a 3-hour fucking thing. Oh boy. All right, guys. I promise I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna hit 2 more PlayStation related stories, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So, Sony Bend is apparently hiring for a new multiplayer project. Wonderful. So. This is they're hiring for, damn, let me take a drink of water. Well, once again, this is the beauty of not not editing shit and doing on the fly production. Hold on one second. All right, let's try that again. So Bend is hiring for a AAA multiplayer project, and they're hiring for a creative director for that AAA multiplayer project. And I'm seeing a lot of people be worried that it's like, oh damn, they're live service game number 1 got canceled, and now they're moving on to live service game number 2. And I definitely do understand some of that worry, where, like, is PlayStation kind of forcing Bend into this new direction? Did they staff up for a live service game, so they're keeping that staff on board for their next game, and it's just gonna, like, maybe something went wrong with the first game? It was a creative direction. It wasn't necessarily the live service element that they wanted to get rid of. It was the overall theme or overall style of game. Jesus Christ, 1 second. My voice is giving out on me. Apologize, guys. But yeah, maybe it was more so a creative decision, more so than, like, are they wanting to continue to make live service games? And people are worried about that, and worried about the state of Sony Bend, and a studio that pretty much always did single player, like, really solid single player games. But I will say, I'm not dooming and glooming about this just yet for Sony Bend hiring for an upcoming multiplayer project, because hiring for a multiplayer project doesn't necessarily mean a live service game or a multiplayer only game. Uncharted had multiplayer, and The Last of Us 1 had multiplayer, and games like Mass Effect had multiplayer. You would still look at all those games as, like, single player first experiences. Gears of War, which you could kind of look at Gears of War as like a 50-50 split single player and multiplayer, maybe even 60-40 multiplayer taking the lead a little bit, but there's a lot of games that have single player and multiplayer components. So I'm hoping that that's what this is like, oh hey, here's Days Gone 2 player mode. You know what I mean? Like something where you remember what was it? It wasn't Miles. It was Spider-Man 2. Where it's like, oh damn, Spider-Man 2 getting to play as Miles and Peter Parker, and they were both in that trailer. And so it made people think, oh damn, we're getting Spider-Man 2 2-player, perfect. And so I would hope that that's what this is. I hope that it's like, hey, here's Days Gone 2. You can play it single player or multiplayer in a couch co-op setting, or in just an online co-op setting with a partner, and still get to play through the story, or however they roll it out. But it is a little bit wild that they're hiring for a new creative director. Like, that isn't great news. You typically hire for big roles like that. You bring people up the ladder. Where this is like you're looking outside to find a new creative director. That's once again, I'm not dooming and glooming about it, because shit like that does happen, but it's red flag, not full blown red flag, but we'll call this an orange flag across the board. Maybe a yellow flag, maybe not quite orange yet, but I am cautiously. Well, no, I'm not cautiously optimistic. I'm skeptical, very skeptical about this, but we'll have to see more. Right now, this is not enough information to really even develop some conspiracy of, like, I don't feel overly negative, overly positive about this, but if I had to lean one direction or the other, I'm, in the yellow to orange territory. Not quite red, but definitely not in the green. So we actually have this report that I just saw today, and I haven't really been able to comb through it, but I figured we could do that here right now. And this is coming from MP First, and they say almost 2 years have passed since Insomniac Games suffered one of the biggest security breaches to occur in video game industry. Da 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 da. Shortly after the incident, Insomniac released a statement confirming development of Wolverine would continue as planned. However, this was followed by a period of radio silence that only fueled uncertainty among fans, raising doubts about the current state of several titles seen in the leaks. Okay, let's get to the thing here. All right, this clear movement happening behind the scenes makes us wonder about the current state of projects like Wolverine and Venom, but fortunately we've received updates on both. Someone familiar with the situation has confirmed to us that Wolverine will stick to the 2026 scheduled release seen in the leaks, and that the Venom project remains in development as well. Additionally, we also managed to gather some extra details about Venom based on the information we've come across. Okay, I'm actually going to pause real quick and I'm going to read over this because I don't want to, like, if it's story details, I don't want to spoil y'all on the story details. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to read some of the information about the Venom game, but they say the most important information we received from our source is that Wolverine is still on track for a 2026 release and Venom has been in active development. While we haven't been able to determine how advanced the Venom project is, if we assume Wolverine remains the priority, it's likely that the game is still in pre-production. So, okay, and once again, there's more, and I'll have all of these articles linked if you want to go and read more about the story for Venom and dive a little bit more into that'll be available for you in the description of this video. I just, for anybody who doesn't want that stuff to be spoiled, I totally understand that. So yeah, it's looking Wolverine 2026. I mean, that is tremendous news. I would be thrilled if we saw that at the State of Play with an official locked in 2026 release date. Even if it's a 2026 window, I would be ecstatic for that. And you know, it's something that I could see launching or saying it's going to launch for 2026, slip into 2027. Even that I'd be totally fine with, just knowing it's coming very, very soon. So then you start thinking about Venom probably 2027. If Wolverine actually does hit 2026, is Venom 2027? Well, they're talking about pre-production. But I don't know, because Insomniac does have multiple teams, and we know that they have the team working on Ratchet right now. So let's say Ratchet maybe like 2029, and then they have Spider-Man 3, so, and then they also have X-Men. They got a lot of shit in the works right now, and once again, a lot of that is going to be in the concepting stage and in pre-production, and a lot of these games are a long way out. But I know that X-Men license runs out, I believe, in 2035. So you'd think that they would want to have more than just Wolverine and X-Men by 2035 before that license runs out, because they exclusively have the rights to make X-Men games. Nobody else can make X-Men games, which is very unfortunate, because you know, as X-Men is about to come back into the MCU verse and it's going to have a prominent push there, it would be nice to have multiple X-Men games on the horizon. But business is gonna business, as I always say. It's you understand it from a financial standpoint, but it's a bummer from the consumer standpoint, where by 2035 we'll probably only have Wolverine in that first X-Men game. Even I would kind of say that X-Men game, that's a stretch for 2035. I hope so. I definitely hope so. But you know, they have that, what, like 40-50 people working on that Ratchet game right now, and they've been spun off to work on that. I think that'll probably be a PlayStation 6 launch title or launch window title, and I think they've been working on that for a while, where they're keeping like a small team consistently working on Ratchet, in the same way that I was like, it'd be cool to see SuckerPunch do something like that for Slycooper and find a small passionate group, even that 10% of their studio. If they have, I don't know how many people SuckerPunch employs. We can look that up though. All right, so saying that SuckerPunch Productions currently has approximately 200 to 250 employees, with recent reports citing figures around 209, 243, and 244 as of 2025. So they're actually a very lean studio. So yeah, I mean, 10% of their staff going to work on a Slycooper game, that would be, you know, only 20 people or so. So, which, I mean, that would kind of be cool to see a smaller scaled Slycooper. Anywho, so like we know 40, 50 people are working on Ratchet, and I assume that's PS6 launch window release. And but here's the thing, dude, is Insomniac goes. When they go, they go. And it's kind of like a similar cadence if you think about it, where Spider-Man 1 2018, that was 2 years before PS5, they go right into Miles Morales 2020, Ratchet 21, Spider-Man 2 23. So like their games are really jammed into this like boom, 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 and then a little bit of a lull. Boom, 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 and then a little bit of a lull. So they're kind of on that similar trajectory here to close out the PS6 or the PS5 really, really strong, leading into a really, really strong PS6 launch. And then there will probably be a lull as well as they begin ramping back up and, kind of going full steam ahead on whatever their next phase of releases will be. I assume they'll still be in the Spider-Man verse as those games. I don't know if y'all have seen the reports where Matt Piscatella from Circana released the best-selling games in PlayStation history for ever in the history of PlayStation consoles, and Spider-Man 1 is on there, Spider-Man 2 is on there, and Spider-Man Miles Morales is on there. And that is and once again, we can fucking pull that shit up as well. There's beauty and there's tragedy in the world of on-the-fly production, but this is the beauty. All right, so here is the list from Matt Piscatella from Circana over on Blue Sky, and as you see here, we have, so Marvel Spider-Man is number 11 in terms of dollar sales in the history of PlayStation from January of 1995 to July of 2025. Marvel Spider-Man 1 is at number 11. Spider-Man 2 is at number 18. And Miles Morales is at number 19. And then in terms of unit sales, you see Spider-Man 1 at number 6. The 6th best-selling PlayStation game of all fucking time. And then at 12 with Miles Morales, and then Spider-Man 2 hasn't hit there yet, but obviously it's the most recent of the releases. But yeah, PlayStation actually has a really strong, God of War is in there, The Last of Us is in there. So their first party definitely does a lot of, heavy lifting to getting people into their console ecosystem with these unit sales. But other than that, it's this list is nothing but Rockstar and Activision. Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, San Andreas all being in the top 5, and then you have Call of Duty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Call of Duty games in the top 20 best-selling PlayStation games of all time. It's just like, what the fuck, man? People love their damn Call of Duty. And so yeah, Rockstar and Activision really dominate this list almost exclusively. There's almost nothing but, because even if you get to Guitar Hero, that's Activision as well. So it's utter domination from those two, publishing outfits. But yeah, Spider-Man is you see why they're doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on the Marvel brand, because it's selling PlayStations and it's selling units and they're selling the shit out of this software, and then licensing fees and all that be damned, it's still very much worth it. Whenever you talk about long-term investment as well as unit sales are great, and then making a whole lot of money off these games are great, but the better thing is that these games are system sellers, and then you get into the ecosystem, and then what do after you bought the PlayStation for Spider-Man? Oh, I'm spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and Call of Duty and Call of Duty. So like you get into the ecosystem for your Spider-Man, because you got to have the PlayStation to buy Spider-Man, or you got to have the PlayStation to play Spider-Man. And then the game you're really playing the fuck out of is your service game, and you're spending all your money in there since you're locked into the ecosystem. You invested that $500. But anyway, I'm fucking rambling like crazy at this point. Gotta hop out of here, and I appreciate the shit out of you guys for tuning in, for stopping by. I promise. I know it's just a lot of news kind of compacted together. I'm gonna try to get out. I'm gonna try to. Once again, it's fucking tough. It's tough to wrangle all this, and a big problem that I have that bums me out a lot is like when I'm trying to do the daily news updates, if I'm just being completely transparent, a lot of the time I'll hop in here and I won't have had enough time to really comb through the news story, so I'm just kind of reacting to headlines, and I hate fucking doing that. I really like to get in there and read the news story and then pick out the interesting shit from the news story and then report on that without having to just I don't like sitting here and just like what we did right there for the MP First story. I don't really like doing that, of just reading other people's work, because it feels like I'm stealing their work and then using it for my own financial gain, and that just I don't dig that at all. So I definitely do want to get out more of these news videos and not have them fucking hitting these hour plus marks. So apologize for the length on this one, but I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope y'all are pumped for some this state of play should be happening. I mean, we got 15 days left in September, and Grubb reported that it was gonna be taking place in September, and Jeff Grubb typically doesn't miss on this shit. So hopefully in the next 15 days we'll have a state of play to react to, and I'll definitely try to. And that's the bummer with these that's another big reason. See, this is also the problem with me not coming in here, and I haven't recorded in like over a week. I think everything that released last week was pre-recorded shit. Because I was just in total binge mode with the damn Sopranos, and so I all of my damn free time last week was going straight to the Sopranos. But I when I don't record, I just ramble like a motherfucker. It's anywho, but what was I saying? Oh yeah, the problem with state of plays is like with the showcase, they would typically announce a week ahead of time when the showcase is going to hit, right? Where it's like, you would know ahead of time that all right, it's the 15th. They would announce that the showcase was going to take place on the 22nd. And you could, okay, well shit, I got enough time to fucking take off work. But with these state of plays, it's like, oh, hey, the state of plays tomorrow. Like, so I don't want to promise that I'll be able to, whenever they announce the state of play, I don't want to promise that I'll be able to react to it, but I definitely will be trying my damnedest to be able to react to it. And they often, the state of plays are like at 2 p.m. and shit. It's like, I can't fucking get free most days at 2 p.m. You know what I mean? So we'll see, man. I would love to be able to react to this upcoming state of play, because I think it might be a fucking banger, just based on these rumors and reports, and who knows if there's any validity to any of this shit. But if we do see a fucking Wolverine trailer for 2026, like, I want to fucking see that. I want to react to that in real time with you guys. So I'm gonna try my damnedest, man. Once again, not confirming that, not promising that, but I'm gonna try my damnedest to be able to react to that state of play with you all. So let's hope for that, and I hope y'all are having a good day. Hope y'all have a good week. Early start to the week with a bunch of fucking news from last week, and I'll try to get another news related item out. I might actually push that top 100 to Wednesday, because I've been doing the top 100s every Tuesday. I might push that top 100 to Wednesday, give y'all a day with this, because I know this is a long ass video, so I probably will push that top 100 to Wednesday and have this occupy Monday and Tuesday. That way you have time to if you want to listen to all this shit. I hope you don't want to listen to all this shit. That's I can't imagine. That's another thing that I think about. It's like, god damn, if I'm already this sick of me, there's no way that everybody else isn't this fucking sick of me, putting out this much damn content, like hearing my voice that much. Like, god dog, fucking can't stand it. Anywho, appreciate y'all. Hope y'all are doing well, and take it easy, guys. I said the same thing 60 times. Appreciate y'all. See you, man. Take it easy, guys. Goodbye.